Perfect. So welcome everybody to our fifth QI-on-the-Fly web meeting. This is our follow-up to last week's experience-based co-design. So really excited that you're able to join us as we take a deeper look into this important QI tool. My name is Ashley Coster. I'm joined today by my colleagues from the Excellence for Quality Improvement Project. We have Alice, Debbie, Rishi is on the line, Chris Sullivan is here as well, and we're all very pleased that you're able to join us this afternoon. Okay, just go to the next slide. Perfect. So for those of you that haven't used Zoom before, we're just going to give you a quick orientation to some of the major functions that you may or may not be using today. So in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a little microphone icon as well as a video camera. This is to control your audio as well as your video. If you wish to go on mute, you would just press the microphone until you saw the red line go through it. Same with the little video camera as well. This session is being recorded today and we'll be posting on our website as well as our YouTube channel. We don't record a gallery view, but if you are speaking, your image will record. So just being mindful of that. If you wish to turn on your video or not, it's completely up to you what you would like to do. If you just go to the next slide. And in the bottom right is a little thought bubble. This is the chat function. We do ask if you have questions throughout the presentation to please put it in the chat as opposed to speaking out loud and using that audio function. I believe Chris is monitoring the chat box today, so we're happy to answer your questions as they may come up throughout today's web meeting. Let's go to the next slide. Welcome everybody. So for those of you that did not have an opportunity to join us last time, this is just a little bit of a deeper dive into experience-based co-design, which is a really important tool to incorporate the client-tenant family narrative into your QI work. Today's learning objectives are to learn about the many ways experience-based co-design, or EBD, can help provide a deeper insight into your client-tenant OPOC responses using a real-life example. We're really pleased that we have a great example to share with you today, and I'll be introducing our panelists in just a moment. We're going to learn about how to use experience co-design virtually, which is very appropriate for the period that we're living in now. And we're going to consider how EBD activities can lead to co-designing the service delivery change with your clients, staff, and tenants. So, we developed this QI-on-the-Fly series out of COVID-19. We are dealing with unprecedented times, and many of us have competing priorities. We're trying to balance safety for all with delivering services to folks that may particularly need them during this time. We're hearing about creative approaches, which are essentially change ideas that are being implemented at a rapid pace and modified or altered as you continue to gather data and look at what that data is telling you, as well as input from your team members and clients and tenants about what is working and what is not. We know that some of these change ideas will be relevant after COVID, and some of them are going to lead to permanent changes. So really interested in capturing this work, and we've developed this series to help you enable to modify your service delivery during this time. So we're very pleased to be joined today by Alice Strom and Rhonda Skeen. Alice is joining us from Ontario Health. She's a Quality Improvement Integrated Care Specialist, and Rhonda Skeen is a Peer Program Coordinator at Regeneration Community Services. So welcome, ladies. We're very happy to have you with us today. And here we see images that may be familiar to some of you folks that may have taken a previous ideas training. So on the left-hand side, you see our model for improvement, and you see that experience-based co-design falls into measuring and understanding your system, which is how do we know that change is an improvement? And we want to be able to incorporate the client, patient, family narrative and involve everybody in developing these changes to make sure that they're going to work for everyone. And on the right-hand side, this might be a little bit more new to some. This is our QI-on-the-Fly template that the E-QIP team has developed to help you document your quality improvement work. As we know, you're making very organic, rapid changes right now, and this is available to you to help you organize some of those QI concepts. And we'll be circulating that in the follow-up email that should be coming out later this week. Just go to the next slide. So recap of webinar number 4. We were talking about experience-based co-design. This is co-designing better experiences for your clients, tenants, families. We went over some of the highlights of this tool, capturing the experience, understanding the experience, improving and measuring that improvement. The EBD approach was developed out of the National Health System, or NHS, which is in the UK. Just go to the next slide. So there's a variety of methods for capturing your client, patient, family narratives. We organize these thoughts into breadth and depth. So under breadth, we have examples such as emotion questionnaires, focus groups, and observations. And for depth, we're getting deep down into some of those narratives. We can do things like interview, shadowing, observation, film, photography, storyboards, and diaries to get a richer understanding of what that client, patient, family experience is like. Just go to the next slide. So under emotional mapping, which falls under breadth and depth, would be asking people to complete an experience questionnaire. It's very valuable, provides a simple approach to capturing feelings and experience. With some simple adjustments, this questionnaire can also be used by staff to identify their experience of delivering the services. For example, frustration at having to wait for results. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Rhonda. So take it away. Really excited to hear from you today.
Okay, thank you, Ash. And hi, everyone. Yeah, really excited to be here, and a pleasure to have this opportunity just to share the experience that we've had at Regenerations Community Services in regards to our peer support coordinate sorry, a little nervous, into physical to virtual, and just basically the process on how we got there. So it was, first of all, quickly and responsive. That's the first words that come up for me, because as a peer team, we are very dedicated, and so is the whole of Regenerations. But we have similar experiences, and we just have this innate desire to be there for our client members as much as possible. And we've been doing that for quite some time now at Regenerations, and we definitely didn't want to stop just because COVID-19 wanted to shut the world down. We were going to detest that was not going to happen, not with us. So as a coordinator, I needed to get really busy, and that really works well for me. And I can't do this without my team. And so I co-create everything with my team and with the client members, and without them, there's no me. So we all work this in together, and that's why I just think it's so very important that I may be here, but so is my team, and so is the client members of Regenerations. They're right here beside me. So saying that, I would say that just to kind of like the process was basically, I knew by March, March 20th, that there was going to be nothing more physical happening. And I remember, I believe it was March 23rd, me and the peer team got together, and the night prior to that, I had gotten all the numbers from the different sites at Regenerations that we support with our members, with our client members. I got all their numbers. I reached out to some of the champions, the RSWs, residential support workers, and the supervisors and managers to get the contacts for the members, the client members that had personal phone numbers, and they made out a list. And then I got that all together, and we had a meeting at a very big site so we could still do social distancing and wear masks and do all those things that we were going to start educating our client members with. And so I appointed each peer support worker. Currently we have five currently 4. So yeah, we got together and we appointed out different sites that we were going to do one-on-one phone calls from our work phone. And at the time, not everyone had a phone, but Allison Hunt, who is my supervisor, the executive director for Regenerations, made sure within a day or two that everyone had a phone, so that we could all be working. And I wanted to make sure that my team was going to be working throughout this period. And so that happened, and then we had to make sure that our remote desktop was working efficiently at all their houses, you know, where they live. And that was kind of like that was something in itself, you know. We had to get our IT guy involved. It's not an easy step sometimes. So we got all that into play. And so that was all kind of like the you know, in the background of what we were doing, but it's still very, very important because all that has to take in place or we're useless to our members. Okay, and then moving right on, and then we got into, so then we had to print out all the contact numbers because what happens is that not all peers, unless there's like big regen events, we work at different sites. Sometimes we don't know other members, and so this time was going to be totally different. So we needed all members to know all peers' phone numbers, contacts, emails, all of that. So I made a flyer and I personally sent them out, and I actually went to the sites and handed and delivered them by hand to make sure that there were certain members that were going to get it, especially in our high supports, because they really needed that kind of they needed that to be able to navigate into, you know, the phone numbers, and sometimes it's very difficult. It just depending on our client members, we, you know, some are very high functional and some of them are needing more support than others. So we did all that, and then what I decided to do, that I felt that in this emergency and at this time that all the peer workers work part-time, and so we figured that it was going to be best that we change up the schedule, still working part-time, but we are available 7 days a week. So we were available 7 days a week instead of 5 days a week. Some of them were only used to be working 3 days and 4. We took on extra shifts because there was one person that was not working at the time. So I could kind of like be a little bit flexible with that. And so yeah, and then, so then we started doing the telephones, and it was an absolute huge, huge success. We went from doing probably, I mean, I don't even know, like I haven't been able to have time to look at the stats, all of the stats, but I am not joking when I tell you this. We were doing up to 15 one-on-ones each a day. And I took on the role. I was kind of like a little bit, you know, hands off of that for about 3 years. I still facilitated groups, and I did, you know, some rap and other one-on-one groups like that, but basically I took over more of a coordinator role so that I had more administration in that. But for this time, I felt that it was a very need that it doesn't matter what our role is, we needed to support our members. So I was in there just like them, and I was doing up to 15 one-on-ones a day alongside them. And they ranged from anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour, and sometimes we had you know, sometimes I'd be talking to a member 3 times a day, because they needed that process. They needed to be able to have that process, and they needed someone that understood why they, you know, why they were feeling and why they were thinking the way they were. And so we were available to them. We believe in consistency and structure. So we had, you know, certain times when we did certain things, and, you know, it was kind of like when we used to do physical knock on doors. I'm a firm believer, you just keep knocking on that door until they tell you not to. And one day they will either open up or show up at a group. And so we truly believe that would happen also when we kept phoning them. And you know what? They started picking up their phone. They started reaching out to their resources, CAMH, to their workers, you know, and then either they would buy a phone They decided that they even wanted to buy a phone because then they've seen other, housemates. They're like, what are they doing? And they got curious. And then next thing you know, they were reaching out to CAMH, and CAMH were giving them phones for 6 months. It's just been, unbelievable process. But let me just stay on track here with so that was in the beginning. That was just our basic work phones that we were doing one-on-one calls. Then we realized that we were doing, oh, wait a minute, we can use conference calls on our work phones. So then we started having little mini groups, and then we were doing meditation one-on-ones, and we were doing 2 members with one-on-ones, and then members that knew each other from different sites, we would connect them on the phone. So connection is extremely important for our client members, and it's extremely in our philosophy of peers, connection. It's kind of like the opposite of isolation. So yeah, so we did that. And then here's the light bulb, guys. So the light bulb for me was when I personally use Zoom on a personal support level for my own needs. And I was, doing up some groups, and all of a sudden I remember there was this one group, and I thought, oh, isn't that odd? It doesn't have telephone group numbers, right? And I'm thinking, oh, I had to go check them out. I had to go check out the Canadian ones and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden the light bulb went off, and I was like, oh my gosh, we could use this with our client members. Oh, okay. Oh my goodness. I called up the peers. I was, I was ecstatic. I just couldn't get it on quick enough. I'm going to tell you the truth. I worked probably that whole weekend. I started doing calendars, and you're going to see them coming up. So I started doing the calendars, and then I, reached out. We were doing one-on-ones. We were reaching out to the members. What do you want? What do you don't want? What do you like? What do you not like? Because you want a successful group. Ask the people that you want to be participating in the group. They're usually a successful group. So we get all our information from them. So that's how it came out. And so we started doing that. And, but then, a lot of our client members were like, oh, I don't even know how to use a phone. So then what we had to do as a peer team, we had to take a lot of time and do one-on-ones and navigate and walk alongside them. And we would do a practice run in Zoom. And then we would show them how they would do it, because with Zoom it is a little difficult than a teleconference, right? You have to do a meeting ID. You have to do a password. You have to know when the right prompts to put in the in the signs, like, the pound key and stuff like that. So we went through, I don't know how many members, we went through that on a one-on-one basis. I sent out a big sheet with the information. People have them on their doors, on their mirrors, and they know when it's 3 o'clock, they know what phone number to know. They know what, how to navigate in their phone. So just when we think that client members can't do it, I beg to differ, because they're doing it. And then we moved right into, and then we kind of zoomed right into June. No pun intended, guys. But yeah, we went right into June, and then we got that much more information from our members that they wanted some music, because we used to do a lot of music groups. We have a steering committee that was really missing us. That's kind of outside of Regen, and so we just recently taken over. We used to be partnerships with 4 villages, and they've been in process for 20 years. So now we were doing steering committee. That's just on the Wednesdays. It stands for, sorry, I didn't have enough room, but it's SC. It was steering committee. And I'm not going to go all over the groups, but they range from anywhere from, we can have a people 4 a day, and then we can have up to 14. We've had up to 14 members on a telephone group. And I'm going to let you know, through practice and trial and error and patience and all that, I mean, they're working out beautifully. I'm the new DJ Rhonda, and with the groups and that. So it's just working out really awesome. I'd like to say that also that, we've been doing some stats, and just in the month of May, we did 795 one-on-ones But to take into account, just to know that it wasn't, we're not talking that individually. Sometimes we had to talk to members 3 times a day, but we still put that into our stats. And then we're doing 7 groups a week. And we do meditations. We still do one-on meditations. We still do 2 meditations with 1 staff. And yeah, so that's where we're at with that. I would say that, but how do we do this now?
That's great. Yeah, that's fantastic, Rhonda. Like I really, there was a number of really great points in what you said around, you know, you don't just say, well, you know, we can't. Sorry, we can't. And you certainly didn't do that. And, you know, a lot of really key points that I heard you say around the team approach and involving your clients and trying it. Oh, gee, we need a little bit more help with this. So, okay, we go back and do it, and just not being, you know, stuck in only doing it one way, not being stuck in not being able to change and adapt. Yeah, a lot of real gems of information in what you share with us. Congratulations. May and June, you know, March, April, May, June were not easy months, and look what you've been able to accomplish. So congratulations, that's amazing. And thanks for sharing your story. I believe there's a larger slide deck that's going to be part of the resources around the work that Regeneration is doing that everyone will receive at the end of today's webinar. So really, really appreciate your time, Rhonda. Thank you so much. I love your energy. So I want to pick up on a lot of the things that Rhonda said in what she did, and the number of times she referenced the fact that you know, they involved the clients, certainly involved the peers, and involved the staff and what they were trying to do. And I want to pick up on the link to experience-based design and still being able to use some of the experience-based design techniques even in this virtual world. So for some of you who were on the last session, you'll know that you're on Zoom, you know that. Rhonda mentioned they use Zoom. I'm going to show you a few more things you can do in Zoom today. Some of you had a little bit of an experience in the last webinar. We're going to repeat that very quickly. And then I'm going to show you a few other things in Zoom that might help to enable you to still keep that experience-based design and co-design approach in what you're trying to do, even though you need to do it virtually. So we're going to play with a few things today in Zoom. So the first thing I want you to do, and those of you who are on the last webinar will be, you know, way ahead on this one, but what I want you to do is I want you to rename yourselves. So one of the things in Zoom is that if you want to collect information and you don't really care, you don't need to know, let me put it this way, you don't need to know who said what, then I suggest that you get all your participants to rename themselves. It's a really easy way to get people to feel comfortable that what they're sharing with you is anonymous. And the way we make it anonymous is we get people to rename. So you can either click on the participant list that you'll see at the bottom of your screen, or some of you know that you can also right click on whatever name is showing in the bottom left-hand corner of your image right now. And what I'd like you to do is if you're clicking on the name that's currently showing, you just right click on it. If you're in the participant list, you right click on rename. And I'm going to get everybody to rename themselves. Oh, and my animation didn't work. I'd like everybody to rename themselves today to Mickey Mouse. So I'll give you a second to do that, and I can have a look in the participant list and see how many Mickey Mouses we have. So I'm going to ask you to respond to some questions and to do some sharing. And, you know, obviously we're in an artificial situation here, but I want to demonstrate to you how you can still gather information in an anonymous way. So if everybody becomes Mickey Mouse, then we won't know who said what, and it allows you to engage and make up answers and have some fun with all of this. I'll just give you a minute to do that. Don't be afraid to chat if you're having trouble with that name change. Oh, we got lots of Mickeys. All right, so now that you're all Mickey Mouse, and sometimes in what we're going to do, I'm going to ask you to type in your response and hit enter right away, and other times I'm going to ask you to hold your response, just to demonstrate a couple of the different ways. All Are you able to change your name to Mickey Mouse? Yes, I can as well. Everybody can change their name to Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse wants to know if everybody's Mickey Mouse today. So this is a similar, different picture. So one of the things that you might be wanting to do with a group, and maybe this is a bit of an icebreaker, maybe this is a temperature check, maybe it's the end of one of the group calls that Rhonda was talking about. You just want to get a sense, or maybe it's the beginning, you just want to get a sense of how people are feeling. So your question today is, choose which one of the two photos best depicts your COVID-19 experience to date. So you're going to pick A or B, but don't type, just type in your response. Do not press enter yet. So Mickey, pick A or B. And then I'm going to ask you to click enter. And here will come all your responses. A and B, yeah. This is where I make Chris's eyes go crazy as he watches all of this. So as an example, well, I'll show you what you can do with this data in just a minute, but here's a way of getting anonymous data. I don't know which Mickey Mouse said B. I don't know which Mickey Mouse said A. What I can see, and Chris, you can back me up on this, is it looks like we got a few more A's than B's.
Yeah, I think the A's have it.
A's got it. Okay, so glad to hear we're still running through a field for the most part. And, you know, we can also point out from what I just saw in that very quick snapshot that, yeah, you know, there's some people who are feeling like it goes up and down. Some days it's A, some days it's B. So let's revisit this idea of emotional mapping. And if you're on the last webinar, Laura took us through a bit more of an in-depth look at emotional mapping. I want to show you how you can do emotional mapping virtually. And so emotional mapping is the idea that layering on top of when we would normally understand process mapping. So we're looking at the steps in a process, and we often use process mapping as a way of being able to identify areas where we might have opportunities for improvement. When we emotionally map, what we're asking people to do is to map their emotions onto a process or onto something that happened. And so in this case, I'm going to show you how to map emotional mapping right on top of process mapping. So you'll remember, you've seen this before, that, and this comes out of the EBD experience-based design guide, that they suggest, they call it an experience questionnaire, and they suggest a use of standard words around what that people might feel, might choose in this process. And this process looks like it's getting into, looks like it might be hospital-based. You're arriving and you're checking in, you're at the information stand, you're in the waiting room, you're going to the theater, which is operating room, you're in recovery, you're having your checkup done to go home, and you're leaving. And so you might map for people, how did it feel when you arrived? How did you feel at information? How did you feel when you were waiting? How did you feel as you're rolling down to surgery? And you get a sense of not only how efficient were we in getting you through those different stages in the process, how quickly were we able to get you into surgery, all of those things, how are you feeling? Because it's important in experience-based design that we understand what's the user experience in all of this. Not just did we complete the steps well, did we get the paperwork right and all of those things, but what's the user experience? So I want to look at the user experience that you, Mickey Mouse, remembering you're all Mickey Mouse, so can't tell who says what. The kind of experience that you, Mickey Mouse, are having right now, and we thought we'd use a bit of a, perhaps something that is altered for the most part for all of us now. And so we did a very quick process map of going to the grocery store. And so you'll see, you know, you arrive at the store. What's new for us is now we wait in line, we enter the store, we take a shopping cart, we shop, we pay for groceries, we load the groceries in the car, and we go home. And the grocery store, of course, was very worried about, where do we put the tape on the floor for the line? How do people enter the store? How are the shopping carts sanitized? What are the arrows on the floor for people to shop? How are they paying? Do we have plexiglass? Are we wearing masks? How's the person able to get back out there? What do they do with their cart? They're not probably so worried about the drive home. So that's okay. They got a good process there. They've put this, you know, the sanitizing stations in certain places. They've put people in certain places. They've put arrows on the floor. Good process. What we're interested in now is, how is the user, you, experiencing this process, and what are your emotions that you're sensing? So we're going to go just through a couple of steps here in this map. And for each step, as it pulses, it will pulse with the animation. I'd like you to type in one word that tells us how you feel and one word about why you feel that. And if you want to just do this quickly, here are the words from the NHS emotional mapping at the bottom here in blue. So if you just want to use those words, that's cool. So let's do this one at a time, and you can just type in and hit enter right away with this person or this activity. So here's our first one, arriving at the store. So how do you feel and why do you feel that? One word. Okay, good, happy, nervous, excited, worried about the wait, worried, supported, organized, anxious, trepidation, safe, worried, anxious, happy, happy. So I could have a look at this, and Chris, maybe help me here. What kind of jumped out at you as something that you might want to pay attention to in this very quick data collection? Oh, Chris,
Maybe I should unmute. Bit of a mixed bag of emotion or feelings at the early stages of this particular process.
Yeah, excellent. All right, so let's go to our next one. Now you're shopping. How do you feel? One word. Now you're shopping. Yeah, annoyed, good. Cautious, annoyed, good. Irritated. Cautious, cautious. Happy, anxious. Annoyed and worried. Good, good, good. Happy, happy, good. Yeah, so if I was the grocery store owner and seeing that, I'd think, I'm seeing a little more mixed bag in here, but I'm seeing some anxious and uncomfortable and scared in the store. So maybe I'm doing okay outside, but when people enter the store, something's going on. Cautious, the arrows are confusing. Yeah. And now let's go to our last step. Let's pulse one more time, which is our drive home. So how do you feel about that drive home? Sure, one word: drained, tired, safe, worried, glad, relieved, glad, exhausted, tired, relieved. Yeah. And so now I'm the owner of this process, and I don't necessarily have any influence over your driving home. Still a bit worried. But is there something that I could do? Is there a sign that I could put where you put your grocery carts back that would say, take a deep breath, you did it, safe drive home, that kind of thing? Because I'm seeing that, this was an exhausting experience for people, and none of us really, well, I shouldn't say none of us, my husband loves it, but most of us don't like grocery shopping. But now it's becoming really exhausting. And for me, as the owner of this process, maybe there's something I could do about that. So my point with this, and to have a little bit of fun, is that you can still collect those emotional mapping values, those qualitative words, even in a virtual situation. And it's helping people focus in on how you're feeling. And if you don't care, and you want to get people's I shouldn't say don't care, if it doesn't matter, and you want people's true emotional responses, do that anonymous Mickey Mouse thing. You can also poll. So Zoom has this lovely polling feature in it, and you can poll and ask people to answer questions. And if you've got people all set as Mickey Mouse again, you won't be able to tell who says what. So we have a little poll built in here today to just show you how the poll works. So Ashley, if I can ask you to launch that poll for us. And if I remember right,
I don't have.
Oh, maybe, you know what? It's going to make, yeah, you know what? Thank you, Ashley. Because I'm the co-host, it's going to make me do it. So it's all good. Here it goes. All right, so you should be seeing a poll on your screen right now that says, if you could have one superpower, what would it be? Sorry, I forgot that we switched roles, Ashley, and it gives it to me. I was trying to abdicate myself from responsibility there. Now, the nice thing about Zoom polls is I can see that 22 of 28 of you have voted. I can see there's a 78% vote rate right now. Oh, just went up to 82 when I said that. So I can decide for myself, this is good enough. That's a pretty good response rate on my polling. And so I'm going to end the polling, and I'm going to share the results. And what it shows me in a different color is what the most popular response was, which was predictive powers. So now you can see that 44% of you would like to be able to have predictive powers, and I think that's a COVID-related answer, and I don't blame you for that at all. A quarter of you would like to have invisibility, 32% would like to have time travel, and I'm going to guess it's forward. We're not too worried about X-ray vision or super strength today. But another really quick snapshot way of collecting information about how people are responding. The trick with Zoom polls, the one limitation I'll say of Zoom polls is that you cannot create them dynamically. What I mean is you can't create them from within. You can if you have somebody working in the background helping you, but as the presenter, you can't create them quickly. In some other virtual platforms, you can create very quick polls. So a bit of a limitation of Zoom, but still a way of being able to gather some information. You may also have noticed that you have a little button on your toolbar called reactions. And by the way, if any of you don't have reactions, I can tell you that that means that you need to update your version of Zoom that you're operating off of. So next time it offers you a little update, you just click that update and it will give you reactions, because reactions is something that Zoom added after we got into the current pandemic situations. So the two reactions that you currently have are clapping and a thumbs up. And I've labeled clapping as very good, and I've labeled thumbs up as good. I also want to say that the other thing that Zoom has added to this reactions feature is that you can now change the skin tone on the hands if you like. And so down under, I believe it's under your video, you ask for video settings. Once you select those video settings, it will allow you to, I think there's a tab called General, and down at the bottom you'll see skin tone settings. So if you want to change the tone on your hands, you absolutely can. But here's the way in which you can use these. Again, you probably want to have everybody be Mickey Mouse or something at this point, because you want to be able to anonymize what people are sharing. And you can just say to people, okay, I'm going to have you respond to a couple of questions here. So using those two reactions, clapping is very good, thumbs up is good. How are we doing in meeting your needs today? And if you're in that gallery view of all the participants, then you will be able to see what people are saying. Thumbs up or clapping, whatever they might be telling you, comes up in the bottom of their screen. So try that. Give me a thumbs up or thumbs up good, clapping very good. You are a client right now, and I'm asking you, how are we doing in meeting your needs? And if you're in gallery view, you'll be able to see everybody being able to give you those responses. And you'll notice that they don't stay very long, or you can disable them yourself. You could maybe, if you had somebody helping you, get somebody to be quickly counting the number of thumbs up and clapping that you get. You could ask, how do you like our new intake form? Maybe you just showed them an intake form and now you want their responses to it quickly. You could maybe ask, so thumbs up, clapping. You could maybe say, how do you feel about the progress you're making? Maybe in Rhonda's peer sessions, you could just ask, everybody's anonymous at this point. How do you feel? Is this helping? Are you making progress? And again, you could get that quick response. I might ask you, how do you feel about this webinar so far today? I might ask you for a quick response about how you think things are going today, and you could give me that very good and good. Now, the one thing I'll say, and I put this question in here purposely to remind me, you realize that there is no not so good or horrible. And so what you could say to people is, no response to me means that you're not feeling good. So, I'm getting a very good, a good, or not good, because no response will be taken as not good, because Zoom has not built in a reaction. Zoom is a very positive, upbeat company. Okay. They have not built in a reaction.
So there's no thumb down option at this point?
No.
Okay.
Zoom is half full, and so okay. They have, not yet. Although
sad face. All right.
I will give them a sad face. Yeah, I will give them all kinds of credit in that they have been able to really adapt rather quickly. But they're staying glass half full. I would watch the reactions though, because they have been updating their software quite often. That's what most of the updates you're getting offered are all about. And I wouldn't be surprised to see those kinds of reactions soon, because people are really starting to see how they can still be using this to collect data. There are some features too within Zoom that are a little bit trickier, and one of them is whiteboard. So I can't show you how to do this, unfortunately, because you can only see this as the host. Yeah, you're right. Somebody made the point, a blank and no reaction could be interpreted in many ways, and you're right, 100%. There is limitation to the data. As the host, you also have the ability to use a whiteboard within Zoom. You won't see this in your version right now. And so when you use a whiteboard, you're using the sharing function. So those of you who have been hosts in Zoom know that you have that share screen. When you're the host, though, when you do the share screen, you'll get an option of whiteboard. And so I've gone into the whiteboard now. Hopefully you're seeing that. And in the whiteboard, I get all kinds of really fun things. I can actually type in the, in the whiteboard. So I could be asking people to be verbally giving me some responses, and I could get you saying like, increase the number of sessions, change the date. You might be like focus group giving me information that I might be able to add here. I might be saying, tell me about what happens first. And I could go into drawing mode. And so in drawing, you're going to say, well, first, you know, I'm really happy. I'm so glad to be here today. And then I have to wait a long time and I start to feel, you know, I'm not so happy and I'm starting to get a little frustrated. And then somebody came out and greeted me and I was like, oh, maybe this is going to be not so bad after all. Things are really looking up. The other thing you can do is you can preload things into your whiteboard, and thinking of a process map for a minute. And if you're trying to find out places in the process that don't work within your map, you can put in, you know, little stamps, they're called. So none of this feels really good. You also have stamps that feel good. So I could say this felt good and this felt good. This didn't feel so good. So whiteboard is a number of ways of being able to take in information from people and be able to share it back out very dynamically. There's, you know, I can also erase things. I didn't mean that. This is really, really important to me. You know, I want everybody, oops, give me the spotlight. I want everybody to look here right now because this emotion is really important. There's all kinds of fun little things. There's highlighters. There's all kinds of fun little things in this. So you just go in and share your whiteboard. The other thing that you can do, you can just go to a blank PowerPoint slide, go out of your slide view, show a blank PowerPoint slide that you might have in your deck. I think I put one in here, and you can just start to type. The message that I'm trying to give you is that think about Zoom, using it this way, think about Zoom as being the projector that you would have used if you were in a meeting room. So now Zoom is just giving you the ability to put up on a screen so all can see whatever it is you're trying to do with people. So when I'm giving you information, that projector is projecting slides and it's showing you the information that I'm speaking to. But if I were trying to type in some responses, then Zoom is just going to show you as I type. I'm filling in an Excel spreadsheet. I'm highlighting a document. You're just going to see it like a projector in a room would show. And just like that, be patient and be kind to yourself if you try to use Zoom in this way, because guess what? Sometimes you're going to show the wrong screen, you're going to go to the wrong spot, you're going to give the wrong direction. Of course you are. You're a human being. If we're trying to use this as a way to be able to virtually interact, then we have to still remember to accept the fact that we're human beings. And when we interact, sometimes we're going to make mistakes. Sometimes things are going to go well. Sometimes we're going to have to, you know, think about something in a different way. So, you know, I might have said to you here, if I was using this as my dynamic screen, my dynamic information capture, I could go out of full screen here. I could ask you to tell me in the chat box, what's one thing that's changed because of COVID that you hope doesn't go away? You could be sharing that with me and I could be putting it into this blank PowerPoint, and then I could show you and you could see it. There are some add-ins as well. I shouldn't really call them add-ins, to be quite honest, because they're add-ons. They're not things that go into Zoom. They're things that you can use alongside Zoom. Most of these have a cost, and if they don't have a cost, their free version sometimes has a limitation to it. But if you want to play around with this stuff, if this is something that you're really interested in, these are ones I've had some experience with that I know. And by the way, if any of you have others that you've used, please put them in the chat box so that we can share them with others. So I've used polling software like Poll Everywhere, also called Poll EV. It's free. if you're only going to get up to 25 responses. So just be careful of the size. Menti, again, free with a limited ability to share back the responses, but you can gather responses for free. Slido is also a freebie, again, limited playback in terms of what you can actually show people. And if any of you if other people, there's the polling, obviously, I showed you within Zoom. If anybody has any other polling software, please share the name with us. There's also whiteboarding software outside of Zoom. There's one called Miro. I've used Miro. I like it. It's free. I think there's a paid version as well. Probably has some bells and whistles that I haven't paid for. There's one called Stormboard and there's one called Mural. So if this is something that you really want to dig into, you might want to have a look at some of these add-ons and think about whether or not they're worth the investment for you. Maybe think about try them for free, see what their limitations are. But you know, I think anything that you can do that helps make it fun and helps you to be more interactive with people, the better. I just wanted to then also show you that, you know, some of these things were fun and you can go, yeah, that was fun. You know, I like being Mickey Mouse and it was kind of fun to pick pictures and I like my superpower and all of those things. But I want to show you that all of that data that I just collected, I could display and I could use it both in reporting back to the users because they're now going to help me design what the changes are that I'm going to try and test, or perhaps I could even be reporting it back to senior leadership because I needed to give them a temperature check on how things are going. And thank you for that one share in the chat for Vox Vote. Interesting. So there's another one. So I mocked up some data. I made some guesses as to what people might have said in response to all those questions that I just gave you. So here's what it looks like. So here's your A/B selection at the beginning. And I made a guess that, because remember, one of the things that we always want whenever we can get it is data over time. Because data over time tells us if we're actually making the improvements that we hope to make by nature of what it is we're changing. So I made a little guess here. I was probably wrong, but I made a little guess that, you know, if I asked you that A versus B question back on the 14th of March, I probably would have got lots of A's. And then if I asked you on the 30th of May on the far right-hand side, I probably would have got more B's. But I graphed this, I made this bar graph just by creating data, fake data, albeit, but maybe I was collecting this, that showed the number of people who chose A versus B for those particular dates and time when I would have checked in. So I've got qualitative data, did you like A or B, in a bar chart that I could use to start to predict. So, you know, I would guess that my best time to, you know, if I was trying to engage people, was these first few, you know, March and April, and I know that I'm going to have a harder time engaging people because more people are feeling B than A, as an example. Or I might, you know, suggest to my leadership that, you know, we've seen a change in how our clients are feeling, and this is what we're going to do about it. This is what they've told us. Your trip to the grocery store. Okay, so what I did is I made up some data here. I decided that I would make up how many minutes you were spending at each block in that process map. And then what I did is I mapped what I guessed, made up, the words would be that you would use. So arriving at the store, I guessed that the most used word when you arrived at the store and you were waiting in line, so that time between arriving and waiting would be worried. And then I guessed some time, you know, enter the store, take the shopping cart, and then I guessed a word that you might use for when you were shopping. And I was wrong because you weren't feeling safe. You were feeling frustrated and angry. And then I guessed a word for drive home and I guessed happy, and you told me that you were tired and exhausted. So if I was trying to present this back, I might want to say, guys, look at this. Like, we really thought that people would be relieved that the shopping trip was over and they'd be really happy, but they weren't. They were exhausted and tired and still worried. What can we do about that? And really be able to dig down in that, because I thought as the owner of the process that you'd be feeling good. You told me as the user that you were tired, exhausted, and still feeling worried. And if I could have a dialogue on that, I could start to dig into that a little bit and help me understand and have you help me design. What can I do about that last little piece then about driving home that would make it a little less stressful for people? And I made up some responses. I thought that you would want super strength. I was totally wrong on this one. As you remember, predictive powers came out at 44%. And time travel was much higher as well. And so again, I could make up a pie chart that says, you know what, this is what people told me they really wished right now. And people are really interested, if they could, in having super strength. So how could we help them to get super strength? So
Alice, if I could just go back to the previous slide.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you just help me understand? Is this a imagined journey of one individual, or I like the average shopper? Is that what you're trying to illustrate here?
Yeah. So what I did is I took some average times that you might have been in each one of those steps, and I guessed at what word would be used most often.
I see.
So if I had real data, I would have had, 20 worrieds and 5 frustrated and 6 safes, and then I would have picked the most common word if there was, if there was a standout.
Yeah.
Or I could even have annotated with saying, 50% of the people right here felt worried, 50% were feeling unsafe. I could have actually put how often I heard that word. I guessed, but it would help you to see, people. So if I got 50% worried and 50% feeling safe, I'd say, you know what? We got a real mixed bag of how people are feeling waiting in that line. What can we do about that? If I got 100% safe when people were shopping, I'd say, we're doing a pretty good job once people are in the store. But if I got 100%, unsafe, oh, wow, we got to do something. We own that process, and we got to do something about that. Yeah, thanks for that question. It helps to clarify.
Yeah.
And here's how you could use the thumbs up, thumbs down. Again, I totally made this up. So clapping, remember, was very good, and thumbs up was good. And so I guessed, that these are the responses that I would get, and I mapped them out on this horizontal bar chart. So it said that for question 3, how do you feel about the progress you're making? People are feeling really good. Like I had like 17 responses that said very good. And I had something like 13 responses that said good. But down on number 2, how do you like our new intake form? Only 10 people really liked it. 15 people said it was good. Now, again, what you're missing out of this, as somebody wisely pointed out in the chat earlier, is the no responses, right? And no responses, of course, did not have that. Sorry, participants have a thumbs down. Not sure what that means. I did not. Yeah, there is no thumbs down reaction yet. Maybe somebody who comment. This is the downside of not knowing who Mickey Mouse is. It's under names. Oh, there was a thumbs down under names, so that is a new. So if you go into participants and you go under more, is that where you saw it? Under names. Huh.
Yeah, Alice, it has raise hand, yes, no.
Sorry, wait, are you on participants?
Yeah, you just go and there's like where you see more. So you go on to participants.
Yeah.
Then you go, you see where, then you go more, there it is.
It does not show up for me as the host. So that's really interesting.
Okay.
That's interesting. So so that's good to know that you can see that. That's a good recent Zoom change, but I don't see that as the host. Interesting. Thanks for pointing that out. That's good to know, because that now gives us another whole level in this data, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
some have it, some don't. So I'm going to guess those of you who are seeing it and those of you who aren't, it's a version thing. And maybe my version needs to be updated too. Maybe that's why I'm not seeing it. But thanks for pointing that out. Excellent. Another way to be able to collect data. So I just want to pause. We're approaching the end here, but just want to pause to see if anybody has any comments or questions. Thank you for everything you've been putting in the chat box all the way along. Any other comments or questions for anybody before we turn over to our wrap up for today? We will share the slides. The recording's available. There is a larger slide deck from Rhonda that explains a lot more about the program than the time allotted today let us do. So I think thumbs up and down for user reactions. Okay, may have to look at that one a little bit more. That's changing a bit. All right, so I'm going to turn it back to Ashley to take us through our last few slides. And thanks for your attention and playing along today, folks.
I'm gonna pass it over to you, Rishi, who's gonna do the outro for today.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Alice. It was great to hear from Rhonda as well, how the real world examples of how they have quickly adjusted during this COVID pandemic using the very important client members' experiences and adjusted their program delivery for the peer programs. So thank you, Rhonda, for your time and sharing your experiences. And thank you, Alice. It was very, very great to see the emotional mapping exercise and how we can capture that various different ways in Zoom and other virtual ways, and not just capturing, but also meaningfully sharing in different ways the data. So all the registered participants will receive this slides as well as other resources from Rhonda as well, as mentioned before, in your email sometime shortly today or tomorrow. So look for that. Next slide, please. So this is not the end. We are still having few more sessions on the QIOnTheFly. There is a break, but we will be back next month, July 15th, for process mapping. So look forward for that and do register. It will be by Alice, and there is another subsequent one in August. So to see the different ways we can capture this information as seen in the earlier grocery example. So there are many ways and many resources that we, the Excellence in Quality Improvement Project, have on our website. So do please check out. There are a lot of tools and templates from previous years, and as well as the QIOnTheFly template that you can use for quickly capturing the information. There is a community of practice that you can use and that you can subscribe, can join and share and communicate with other folks and in the sector. It's a very great opportunity to get immediate feedback upon how you're doing and not to reinvent the wheel. So it's on Quorum. The link is will be on the slides, as well as you can see that on the website. We also have a heavy social media presence, frequent tweets and lots of information being posted. So do follow us on Twitter. Our hashtag is @E-QIP_ON, and tag us if you are tweeting. So if you have missed any of these webinars, this one, like in the previous ones, or there are from the previous sessions, there's heavy resources, as I mentioned before. So we have a YouTube channel where you can find all the exciting webinars. If you want to get a refresher about model for improvement, as well as other webinars. They're short, half an hour in length. And these are from our previous cohorts. That's our coaches have put. So do check out. And also join our mailing list to stay informed about upcoming events and training opportunities. We have a cohort 5 starting soon. So if you're interested, do check out. There is a lot of information you can sign up on. Next slide. And last but not the least, your experience in this session, in this webinar, as well as other future webinars that you are interested to listen. So do take a moment and please take a moment to answer the survey, which will be the link will be in your email. So do let us know. Last but not the least, thank you again for coming and joining us on this afternoon, and have yourself a wonderful day, and we'll see you in a month's time. Thank you, Alice and Rhonda.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Good hint about not leaving your name as Mickey Mouse, unless, of course, you think that's fun.